Welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast, the bi-weekly all-cure podcast. I'm Gavin. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope everybody is keeping safe out there and doing all right. I don't even know where we left off in this madness and what's to come before this even comes out. So we're going to stick to cure talk here. But on behalf of the Holy Hour Podcast, we definitely want to send our love out to everyone and hope you're being safe and taking care, and everyone around you and is holding up strong and fighting our way through this. Hopefully we'll continue to get some good momentum going here, and we'll be all talking silly shit again together soon and back to whatever the hell normal was. But it's a long road ahead still from this perspective, so let's all keep holding tight. And in the meantime, thank you for joining us. As you may have heard in the last episode, we are celebrating all month long 17 seconds, and like our past album episodes, we've like to follow them up with other people's perspectives, so it's not just Donald and Chaz and myself talking about these albums and throwing it out there to you guys. So in case we miss something, we want to cover it in as much detail as possible, or just get some other perspectives. And a lot of good stuff usually comes out of this. And this episode is no different. We got some really cool contributions from this one. Some of our nearest and dearest reached out to us. We were very lucky and fortunate, and I'm going to jump right into it and share some great segments of us in various forms talking to you guys out there. So put your old bucket hat on and get comfortable. We got some 17 seconds talk. First up is one of our oldest contributors to the show, and perhaps the first person, as we mentioned in this segment, that isn't an immediate family member or old-time friend that we had on the show. One of the first strangers to contribute, and it's Tyler out in San Francisco. So he's out in the thick of it, and lets us know how he's doing in California and his thoughts on the Cure's Sophomore album from 1980. This is Donald and myself talking with our old buddy, Tyler.
Hello.
Hey, Tyler, man. What's up, dude?
How's it going?
Terrible. Scary. How are you? Terrified.
You know, about the same.
Yeah. So all the way out on the West Coast, right? Are you in LA or?
San Francisco area.
San Francisco, okay. Cool. So yeah, you hanging in there, man?
It's an unprecedented time.
Yeah.
This is all new. This is all new.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking here. Is like it's so hard to know the pacing, you know? It's like I think everybody has like that, a week or so, we got this. It's like a storm, and then it's like a couple weeks, and then it's like, well, it's not that crazy to imagine this going on for about 3 more months, and then about, like, are we talking into the holidays, or what's going on? You know, this is like a marathon now, you know? It's like so hard to not lose your shit on this. But
yeah.
Man, well, thanks so much for talking with us tonight. And
no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. As far as introductions, Tyler, I believe you were the first contributor to this whole podcast, maybe even aside from family and friends that we immediately like roped in just out of obligation here. But you might have been the first person that actually did something. So anybody that's been tracking the show from the start, you should know Tyler by now. It's been quite a journey. So thank you for helping us along the way there.
Yeah, being part of it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And sorry to hear with all this, you had a whole tour, right? And had to be one of the many that postponed tour there, right? Yeah.
Well, completely canceled just because a good number of the spots were pseudo DIY spots, and so just with how everything's going on, there's no assurance if those places are still even going to be able to be open once all this ends. But
sucks so bad.
Yeah,
those little venues, man, are just gone. Like, it's tough.
Yeah, it's a total bummer.
And you know, me and a lot of my closest friends were all musicians, and so it's just you know, it's just difficult, especially if you know, like I know some people who do music and you know they go out and they do shows because they feel like it's kind of like, you know, it's going through the motions kind of thing, but like I play shows because I actually enjoy playing shows. So that was like, for me, it was just like, you know, twisting the knife, having to cancel all that.
And you go by Violator for those not familiar out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we'll definitely put a link up for anyone not in the know there. So, have you taken advantage of any ability to write time or anything, record or anything like that?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Cool.
I have a good wealth of material that I've got demoed.
Is it all quarantine themed or anything, or you just kind of focus it? Good. So I have this fear that there's going to be all these albums about like
I think it's kind of in poor taste, and also it's just kind of lame. Like seeing people come out with songs about the quarantine. It's like, all right, like we get it.
Right. We're all
how
doing
many
it.
virus-themed albums are going to be dropping in a few months? You
know,
right. Or like when all this went on, like when all this was starting, I saw a lot of people on like, you know, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, being like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, binge watch Contagion or Chernobyl Diaries. I'm like, no,
like why would you do that?
Yeah, get as far away from that as you can.
It's like, hey, I'm gonna freak myself out for a while.
Yeah, even more.
I know. I think like a lot of records are going to be like either like you know, they talk about like the baby boom that might come out of this. I think there's going to be like a record boom, and it's going to be like
maybe
it's going to be either really dreamy, like escapism kind of
electronic shit, or it's going to be like just super like
right,
like just super angry shit. And
it's gonna be like when Reagan was elected.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah. So where did any of your new material fall into either of those categories? You think of? Does it have dreamy, or what was the second one, Donald? Or just really
chaotic
black metal?
No,
what was the second?
No, just like angry, just like you know, dreamy or like.
I don't tend to do stuff with really fast tempos. But I mean, I'm using I'm finally recording with live bass, which is something I should have done a long time ago, but I didn't. But I finally am. So I'm throwing on like 2 OS chorus pedals onto it. So
doubling down.
Yeah.
All right.
So I mean, it's definitely it's sounding different than what I usually do. But you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
that's dope, man.
Awesome. Well, I guess going back to the Cold War era feel of things too, 1980s 17 Seconds is why we've all come together on this lonely, isolated evening together. Figured we'd see what your thoughts are on the Cure's second album, 17 Seconds, and so yeah, where did that fit into your discovery of the Cure? Did you?
The first 2 albums I heard of theirs were Pornography and The Head on the Door. That I definitely remember, and I know that's and I know the last one I heard was 3 Imaginary Boys. And I was actually thinking about this earlier, is that I can't remember where in listening to them I first heard 17 Seconds. But I knew A Forest before listening to the album.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of all that I knew about this album going into it. My listening to The Cure was very different from how I would go about listening to most anybody else who I enjoy, in that when I first got into The Cure, I was like, holy shit, like this is the band, and I'm not going to go and download everything and listen to it. So with The Cure,
Right.
So The Cure was like the only band where like I would go out to record stores or Target or Walmart or whatever and actually buy the CDs.
Yeah.
So so I ended up going out and buying all the 2-disc deluxe versions that were out at the time.
It's the best way to like the fun and thrill of just like going out and like finding shit. Like that's half the battle, and like it's way more satisfying. Like something that you like, you can like binge watch it or whatever. It's so you could just download it and be like, I got it. But it means a lot more to like find it out in the wild. I love that shit.
And it's so weird, and it's funny because I feel like that's a fairly common feel for 17 Seconds in particular, because it is such a like you said with The Forest and A Play for Today. I kind of like burned in with like standing on the beach and staring at the sea kind of thing, so those were there. They were always established. And then when you are getting that lump sum, it is easy, even if you are buying like the albums, it's one that it kind of stews more than a lot of Cure albums. So it's like, if you get like, like you got Kiss Me sitting there, and you got like something like Faith, is like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? And then you got 17 Seconds. It's kind of like, of course, you're probably going to gravitate more to the extremes first, so it's a little unfortunate for 17 Seconds. I feel like it is always that sneaky one that's in the cracks waiting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because it's not, the punk album, which is, Three Imaginary Boys, and it's not the gloomy atmospheric album, which is Faith. It's like I don't want to say weird, but it's the interim album. Having said that, I do think it definitely leans a lot more towards Faith than Three Imaginary Boys.
Totally.
And I was re-listening to it today in preparation to talk about it, and something that I noticed is that despite there being more members of the band and more instruments technically on it than Three Imaginary Boys, it still sounds much more sparse than Three Imaginary Boys.
Yeah,
absolutely, dude.
Definitely. That's strange, because just in the recap one that we recorded that hasn't come out yet, we kind of also had that more surprisingly recent discovery with it. It was like, it's almost more stripped down feeling in a sense than Three Imaginary Boys, even, because it's so like spread out, it's not,
It's the album where they notice like the space.
Every instrument has its own place. It's not like something like
overcrowded,
like Object, where just the guitar is everywhere.
Right.
Punch you in the face.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of that's the tempo, because the songs do have more room to breathe, and they're kind of at a slower pace. They're not like just like full on post punk, like da 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 da. But at the same time, it is. It's very strange that it never really dawned on me, or it's like, there's definitely more atmosphere on this one, but it almost feels like there's less, in between the spaces there. So
and it's definitely them making use of the space, and I think that it's fitting that this is the first album that Robert produced.
Yeah,
it's normally something that comes with time.
Yeah,
as a musician, just like just chill out and give it some space, and like dude was like 20 or some shit, like and he's like, I need to get some space in between these notes. That's dope.
People have mentioned, and we've kind of been getting different opinions on the idea of, it's been said this feels more like the first Cure album. Where would you agree with that then, you think?
Oh my god, yes. I'm actually and I've gotten into very intense debates over this, but to me, actually, Three Imaginary Boys is my least favorite Cure album, because to me, it doesn't sound like a Cure album. I don't think it's a bad album. I just think it's a bad Cure album. And I know that I'm definitely in the minority here, but like I would rather listen to 413 Dream or the self-titled or Wild Mood Things before Three Imaginary Boys. Because I think Three Imaginary Boys, I mean, and Robert has said this, which is that those songs were written when he was like 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
And like they're fun, punky or post-punky songs. I think that besides a handful of them, they don't really fit with what the band ended up becoming. So
Absolutely.
I always saw 17 Seconds as maybe not the first Cure album, but the first proper Cure album.
Yeah, that's good wording. As much as we've been tossing this around, it's like, this and that. And it's like, but proper. I like that word for it.
Yeah,
it's like, this is the
summed it up.
Proper. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
well stated.
And I think it's definitely them coming into their own. And as much as I think that Michael Dempsey is a great bassist, it took him not being in the band anymore for them to come into their own. But but the pro of that is that then we have Simon.
Yeah, and just how that helps the pieces of what we know of the Cure start to merge and come together for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like if you look at their trajectory after 17 Seconds, you have Faith and then you have Pornography, and I just don't think that the Cure would be what they are without them having made 17 Seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Because you can't start that deep in it, like if they came out blazing with Faith, even it'd be like, whoa, that was like 0 to 100, and then or God forbid they came out blazing with like Pornography right after Three Imaginary Boys. It was just like, whoa, what the fuck?
Right,
like, Jesus Christ.
So, I mean, you really do have to like get it on a track first, and then slowly start cranking it up more and more the way they did.
It's like easing into a hot bath.
Yeah, that was just.
You know what I mean? Like that whole string of records. Like 17 Seconds is when you're like dipping your toes in the bath and you're like ooh ooh ooh.
Yeah,
and then it just gets better and better.
As far as like just the actual album, then do you feel like there's any standout like strengths versus weaknesses with it as a whole?
I don't think that Paul Tolhurst's drumming is any tighter than it is on 17 Seconds. I think
best.
As far, I don't necessarily think it's his best. I think his best drumming is on Pornography, on something like
dude, you're right. Yeah,
like
it's a fucking tight as fuck. Yeah, dude.
But as far as just like he played the right drum at the right time, I think that's 17 Seconds.
Yeah.
And I think that.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, it's such a unique album because like you throw the words like sparse and space and how open it sounds, but then you get to the end of something like Secrets where it's like as dense as the album gets, and you have the interplay with the guitar and the piano. So I mean, for me, as far as like particular moments on the album goes, that's one of my favorite moments on the album. Of course, Play for Today and The Forest are going to be the two songs everybody talks about. For me, though, like one of my favorite songs on it was always At Night.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that song just rips.
Absolutely. The best riff.
Oh my god.
Such a good fucking riff. And the drums sound dope as fuck.
And it's one of those, I mean, it's like a 6.5 minute long song and it feels like it's half that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how the pacing of a lot of the album anyway is like doesn't match with the reality of its running time,
right?
Even the whole album, versus the little snippet songs, and it's just like, things that seem like are really long or shorter than they are, and things that are shorter than they are seem way long. You know what I mean? It is really.
It definitely is one of those albums, I think, where even if you move one song like to the place before it or after it, it completely throws.
Yeah.
Like the whole experience changes. Like going back to The Top, I think that like besides Shake Dog Shake and maybe the song at the top, you can change around the track listing in the middle, and you're probably going to get around the same experience.
It doesn't matter.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
But like with 17 seconds, like I can't imagine it not in the running order that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very like, you know, we've mentioned this in other snippets or somewhere too, but I feel like it's so like mapped out with like the like intro to the little, you know, instrumental track, especially that first half where it's just like what it's almost like setting it up like it's a way longer album than it is, you know. It's like, do we need a fucking intermission on this thing? It's not that long, you know. It's like,
I think you do. Like,
yeah, I mean,
this shit's like a really well orchestrated like short story. Like,
I mean, it's definitely part of its charm. It's like all set up like a, you know, epic.
Like it takes you through it. Like,
yeah.
But I think that also, like, that also shows one of Robert's strengths, which is that, like, reading about Three Imaginary Boys, one of the things that you always see is how unhappy he was with the track listing because he didn't get control over what songs were on it. So for me, 17 Seconds is just him being like, fuck you, here's the perfect running order.
Yeah,
here it is.
True. And just having it totally by the reins and, you know, everything down to the album cover and, you know, everything, just having his vision captured perfectly for whatever it was, you know. It's like, all right,
and look how dope
take it or leave it, you know. What's that?
Look how dope it is. Like, look at the legacy. Like, we're talking about it right now because it's like, it's a pretty, like, visually and audibly, like, it's great.
40 years on now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like even from when you started whenever the year may have been of when you did hear it for the first time, has it changed over that period of time even for you, Annie?
I think it has. It's the same way where, like, I mean, and I know I'm, you know, probably saying something that a lot of people would agree with, but, you know, if you re-listen to something like 413 Dream or the self-titled album, like, of course you're going to find some gems on those albums because they exist, but revisiting something like 17 Seconds after having not heard it for, I mean, gosh, I don't think I'd heard it in maybe a year or so before I re-listened to it today.
Okay.
Just because I have so
what the
much
fuck, man? Like, do you even know what The Cure is? Like,
yeah, right.
Jesus, man.
But it's like revisiting an old friend, you know, or it's like rewatching, like, I don't know, an Akira Kurosawa film when you're 5 or 10 years older than the first time you saw it, where now all of a sudden it has a whole completely different meaning for you. You don't necessarily notice the parts because the whole is just this complete image.
Thank you for talking with us.
Right.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. And I hope you keep safe out there and everything around you stays as sane as possible there, and you get back on the road and making those awesome tunes soon. So.
Glad you're alive.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Take care, dude.
Anytime. Take care. Thanks a lot. All right. Thanks again, Tyler. Always a pleasure hearing from you, and hope you're still doing well out there. And again, be sure to check out Tyler's music. He goes by Violator, and we'll put a link to that in our Facebook thread for this episode. Up next, we have a fella named Erik, who I've been dying to get on the show. Been sending emails back and forth with Erik lately, and has lots of cool insights and cool Cure discoveries he's been sending my way, and we really wanted to call him up, but like an idiot, I realized that if I'd called him internationally from my phone, he's in Ottawa, and it would be extra charges, which blows my mind still. But you know, we're gonna work out something with like a everyone's doing the Zoom now, so Zoom or Skype or something. So we're gonna have a full-on conversation with Erik hopefully soon. But he was such a good sport. He still wanted to contribute to this episode, so I sent a few topics along to him, and he did it the old-fashioned way here on the Holy Hour podcast, where let the stream of consciousness flow, and has a lot of great points in here. So I'm happy to introduce to the show Erik and his thoughts on 17 seconds.
Hey Gavin, this is Erik, and I want to say hi to you guys. Thanks for all the work you do with the podcast. It's been a great find. Been listening to The Cure since about 1986, 87, at which point I was in middle school, or maybe grade 9 or something. And 17 Seconds was one of the earlier cassettes that I got, and definitely made an impact. I think going back though, my first introduction to The Cure was the Standing on the Beach cassette with all the B-sides, and that was a fantastic intro. You know, what's all been said before, the B-sides being just as excellent and eclectic and innovative as what was on the A side. But I did give an intro to a whole bunch of singles that I'd missed when I was too young to catch them. And A Forest was obviously a really cool sound. Eventually, after that, I think it was a Christmas where I got Head on the Door and 17 Seconds on cassette. And so that was kind of the next phase of exploration. And so that's just cool for me, because for me, getting to know 17 Seconds was really a winter album. And I think it fits the imagery and tone of the record well. Really, I remember walking around with a Walkman in the snow to the bus stops, walking the dog, just feeling the cold air and being alone in wintry Canada, you know, where it's dark early. It just really fit the tone of the album well. And so I have vivid memories of that being my first impression, and how the sound really fit the mood of cold winter. I guess the imagery on the cover is maybe more like fall, but still I think it fits well. I did really like the sparseness of the sound and how it was downplayed. My opinion about it has not really changed much over the years. Maybe it's become more refined and contrasted with the other albums as they came out. But I still feel like it's one of the most cohesive albums that they have. I love that it was recorded in 14 days or something like that, 2 weeks. I love that they pulled that off with very few changes in instrumentation in the tracks. It sounds very tight, and sounds like they really stuck to their vision in recording it, and I feel like it really comes through more so than some of the future albums, you know. The other thing is, it's not really a debut album. I don't really see it that way. Clearly the beginnings of The Cure were more in the post-punk period of Three Imaginary Boys. But to be fair, I don't feel like I've ever really latched on to that album very much. I feel like that's been kind of a loose collection of songs and kind of a pointer of where they could go. But that rockier sound was not really what I was looking for. I had more of a pop ear at the time, and so I never really caught on to much of Three Imaginary Boys. And then I feel like 17 Seconds is really where they started taking ownership of the vision they wanted for the band. It's a good extension to the anti-image they were trying to portray at the time. It kind of carried over from Three Imaginary Boys with, again, no band or Robert showing up on the album cover. There's kind of an odd blandness to it. I don't mean that in a negative way, but just kind of a veneer over everything that's happening, and it's personal in some ways, but also a little bit oblique. And I just feel like this continued the trend of not purposefully not having an image. For me, I love that it's short and to the point. Personally, I don't like the extra long sprawling albums, maybe Disintegration being the exception, but I prefer a shorter number of tracks, and I love that it's under an hour and kind of punchy that way. I think if it was longer, it would be too much. I love the instruments and how plain they are. It's almost defined in the way that it's underwhelming. There's very little flourishes on the album. I'm not a musician and I don't know musical technique or anything like that. Like, I wouldn't be able to speak about that, but there's something deliberate about how plain and to the point the music is delivered and how much space there is between the notes. I really, really like that, and some of that continued on to Faith, and I really love how they use space as much as instruments, and very paced timing. And the drumming, as we know, almost robotic, but and they could be almost synths, but I love how they're delivered, and it really feeds the sound well. To me, this is a low key, low sounding album, best played when it's kept simple. It's the one thing I kind of miss about some of the live performances, is I feel like they try to rock it up a little bit too much, and I feel like this one would be fantastic if it was heard in a small venue, really tight, small club with lots of synth and atmosphere and quiet, in between the songs. Anyway, that's my feel. I love how it's quiet that way, and all the songs really fit in well together. I like the themes on the album. I feel like it's a little bit immature. I'm a big lyrics guy, but I feel like it's a little bit immature in its approach to being philosophical and points of view. But at the same time, there's kind of a cool exploration of some themes. Definitely isolation and desolation, like in a forest and at night. I think there's a lot of references to time and like spending time in your house, and 17 seconds as a measure of time. Lots of references to time and space too. It sounds like there's a lot of void on this album that they're exploring, and I think that's really, really cool. For me, the standout tracks are Forest for sure. Forest is probably in my top 2 songs consistently, and live it's a completely different song, of course, and in this case I really do like the long versions, but that's clearly the standout track. And apart from that, I've always really liked M and 17 Seconds and Play for Today. A couple of tracks I've never really taken to, like Secrets. I know some people love that one, not so much. And At Night I find just a little long. I kind of know what they're going for. It sounds like a really drawn out long night in the cold, but I feel like it's just like 1 minute too long, but otherwise awesome. I really like 17 Seconds. I've always thought that was such a cool closer, and it's so cool too to know that they opened some shows with that one. I've always been intrigued by 3, and I recently rediscovered that 3 was kind of based on Forever live. If you pick up on some of the early versions of Forever, it's kind of a version of 3, and so that's cool. The words are always a jumble, and it's always been a puzzle trying to hear them, but I kind of like that too. has the album changed in any way for me over the years? Well, I think all of the albums have changed for me over the years, and that's more my relationship with The Cure. But I still like it. I find it enjoyable. Definitely has more of a nostalgia feel for me now that I'm in my late 40s and not my early teens. But I feel like it holds up really well. You know, when that's what I want to hear, that's what I want to hear, basically. And that's true for all of the albums. And where does it fall in my list of albums? I can't possibly answer that. That changes constantly. I don't think I reach for this one very often, but when this is what I want to hear, then that's what it is, you know. That's basically how it is, so it just depends on the mood I'm in. What else can I say? I think it's a great intro to the kind of dark trilogy, and for me, this is the more innocent of the three. I feel like Robert's exploring some themes of relationship, and like I said, void, and some exploration of issues of time and space. And kind of interesting that he is exploring relationships at this point. When then you move, and it's sad. It's a sad album, a little bit desolate, but not nearly as dark as Faith becomes. Faith has a bit more of maturity, but also explores more issues of existentialism and futility a little bit deeper. And then, of course, Pornography, which I probably tend to listen to far more often, but that has as much darkness, but also anger and madness, you know. And so that's more what I pull for. Anyway, I've rambled on for a long time. Thanks for the opportunity to give my few cents, and I hope to be able to chat to you guys in person sometime, or I mean, real live. Hopefully we can make that happen technologically one day. Take care. Keep on doing what you're doing. I love your dedication and your work, and talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, thanks so much, Erik. Definitely want to get a full conversation in with you very soon. So much good Cure insight there, and we appreciate you doing the solo talking there for us, and I love to hear every minute of it. So thank you very much. And we're going to shift now to a conversation that Donald, Chaz, and myself had with Kelly out in Tennessee. This was a snippet taken from the Quarantine Talk Mystery Caller episode we did recently, but we got rolling with so much Corona talk and wrapping our heads around everything that I figured we'd pull out the 17 seconds business from that one and use it here. So it seems a little more appropriately placed here, but Kelly had some great things to say about 17 seconds, so let's hear how it was rolling that night.
17 seconds, though. The fact that it turns 40, though, I think it's things are weird when you attach a number. Like last year, we were discussing Disintegration being 30, you know, and now we're talking about this one turning 40. So it's weird when you actually attach a number to it. You know, yeah. I feel like it's an album that should be more celebrated than some of the other ones that have been. I mean, we all love Disintegration, don't get me wrong, but like 17 seconds is far more important in there. You know, we couldn't get to Disintegration without 17 seconds. I guess that's what I'm
Absolutely.
saying.
Yeah, for sure.
17 seconds is calling it. Like, they're calling that progression.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like the Babe Ruth of the
run.
Yeah.
It's going to be like fucking 30 years or whatever later.
It's going to take 9 years, but I'm going to get there, you know.
Yeah, it's like that initial push too, you know. It's like that's the one that gets the ball rolling in that direction for sure, you know. It's like,
and it's weird because of all the ones of all like the albums from that era, that one's the bar, but even compared to Three Imaginary Boys, that's the one that's by far the most minimalist.
Yeah.
It is extremely minimalist compared to the others. Because even though like Faith sounds like it was recorded in a cave, but like it's just the sound has been filled with that reverberation, and there's none of that on 17 Seconds. It's completely minimalist.
It's like, I see what you're saying. It's like, if you took like Three Imaginary Boys and like 17 seconded it up a bit, like recording wise. Like if you took all like and Boys Don't Cry as well, and you did it up like 17 second style, like dressed it up, like they'd be really different records. But this is the first one that like, bam, like really hit that sound.
Yeah, that Cure sound becomes more of the what we're used to.
That like you have when some people are like, oh, I don't like it because the first record is more of a punk record, and then this one in the second they slow down, and there's nothing slow about 17 Seconds. The songs still move very, very quickly. There's just
punk as fuck.
Yeah, like, but there's just what's happening in the song has just been a little more
dissected.
Yeah, it's like the album really moves.
Delineated, like.
It's like, 34 minutes long? I mean, you blink it, it's over. I mean,
I feel like it's so short. It's like one of the things with that record that's so weird because, when you compare it to a lot of the ones around it, and then like, it's definitely shorter, but at the same time, it's not really that much shorter than like Faith, I think it was. I have the numbers written out for when we do the 17-second episode, but sometimes I think it is because it has like those instrumental tracks that are so short, and then the other ones are short. You know what I mean? It's just so like kind of fragmented more. And like you said, you just like so many times I put that album on, and it's like I start to do something, and then I'm like, oh shit, it's over. you know, like I even forgot. It just kind of blazes through like everything so fast. It's really weird.
I listen to that on cassette a lot when I get home from work, like to chill out. And it is just like I'll be talking, with my wife or whatever, just like listen to it, and then like a minute later, it's like I have to flip it to side two, because it's like big bang, and it's like it zones me out so hard, which is hard. Like I like long zone out records.
Yeah.
Like that, like on CD or is kind of better for me. Or like listening to it on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, flipping that is like,
because it is like a whole.
And Faith has a few of those songs like Drowning Man and stuff that like just stretch, so much that it's like, like there isn't really that much of that on 17 Seconds, like the Droney songs are those short little tiny guys, so it's the
rest
like
is bang, bong, boom. It's like that for like a minute 30.
It's definitely like there's still definitely because those songs were developed live, so there was still definitely like okay, we got to play these live. We have to be able to keep their attention. In a live setting. So you could even though they did stray from the formula of the time, they still kept a part of it in there. Whereas Faith was like most of those were not road tested prior to them making the record. So I think there's why there's a little bit more space between steps. Everything.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying? Like little baby steps, like instead of long shit. It's like like 17 Seconds just holds on to that like kind of like
just short boom 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 in.
Yeah, like I think the Forest might be the longest song on there. I mean, I mean,
right. That's like the shortest version of A Forest is the one that's on the actual album. It's like you always think that song's like so long, and then like you listen to the album version, and it's like, it's already over. It's like totally just wait for that last part to drag out longer. Yeah, it's perfect.
I play it live. Love the album version. So, like sometimes I want to listen to it, and it's like I don't have like fucking 15 minutes right now.
I mean, the album still. I mean, to me, it could come out. It could come out today, and I think it would. It would be. I think I wasn't around back then, so I don't know. But like to me, it was. It sold well enough in those days. It charted in those days, but I think like if it came out today, it would be maybe a bigger hit today.
Yeah, it's definitely like that sound enough is like something that would be like super cool retro now, where I could totally see an indie band.
Like especially the drums, the way the drums sound, like people are still doing that. People are still trying to achieve that, that very tight, minimalist, no space type of sound,
Did you hear that Frankie Rose cover version? She did like the whole album of that.
No, I haven't heard
it's
that.
really good because they just totally do it like indie rock band style, and it sounds like almost too similar where they just fucking nail it, but it's cool because it's like female vocals and it's just a little tighter because it's modern, but it's like all the sounds are like tweaked in and they nail it.
Hitting that reverb just right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the perfect example of like, them channeling that sound, and how it doesn't sound that crazy. It sounds like an indie band now, and it's pretty cool.
I mean, you can make that in your bedroom now, you don't need drum triggers and and
reverb.
And isolation. All that comes in a standard issue piece of software now,
right.
But it's all it's all on how you use it, I suppose. I mean, what I think is hilarious is for ages I thought the drums on that album were a drum machine.
Yeah,
a very well programmed drum machine.
Growing up, I always thought that too. I think because it is so robotic and
it's just Lowell's fucking like heyday, man. Like that's where he's like the Lowell that gives respect. Like he drum machined that shit. Like. He was so impressive.
Has 17 Seconds changed much for you since you initially got into the Cure? Like just over your lifespan of Cure fandom?
Well, okay. Here's a funny story. Well, I wouldn't call it funny, but when I first heard the album, somebody put it on a cassette for me. And so it fits on like one side of a 90-minute tape, and they put something else, a bunch of other stuff on the other side. But so for the longest time before I bought it on CD, I would listen to the tape. But the first song, Reflection, it would skip. So whoever taped it off the CD, the first track was skipping for at least 6 minutes.
Oh wow!
And Reflection's like only 2 minutes. Okay. But the way that it skipped, it didn't sound like a CD skip.
Yeah.
It sounded this kind of this weird, choppy. It was like borderline rhythmic. And the way it was doing that, and I think it was pretty obvious. And I don't know if I have the tape anymore. Pretty obvious that the person that made it for me hit the button on the CD player just to go to the next track.
Right.
Because it probably would have kept going, but for the longest time, I thought that's what the song was. Like
you're disappointed when you heard it. Like,
interesting lead off track
version.
And so I got the CD. I was in high school sometime, and I think I bought it at like Best Buy or whatever, and and I was like, oh, that's weird. That song's short. Or like, well, let's go. And I thought maybe I had some like different version. And then like the more I thought about it, I realized, okay, no, the CD was just, whoever recorded it for me was just skipping, and
that's awesome.
Oh man.
Or maybe I have the vinyl version where there was a lot groove, or something. But no, that's not the case. Yeah.
And it's like you love that more than the original version,
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
In a way. It made the album longer, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there you go.
But you hold it closer to your heart. And, you told us a story about it. Like,
if only this song was a little shorter.
Because, I always say there's like there's two different Cure fans. There's those that thought Kiss Me was too long, and those that thought it wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
And because I have heard that from people, they're like, "Oh, the album's just too long for me. There's too many songs on it, whatever." And I kind of look at 17 Seconds as like isn't a similar thing. Or those of us who think it's it is what it is, and those of us who are like, well, it could have been longer,
Yeah.
Like there could have been more on it. And considering some of the B-sides that have come out over the years, that have reared its head, or some of the works in progress that have reared its head, it tells me, yes, it could have been longer. It could have had 2 more songs on it, like, even some of the B-sides to me were album worthy in my opinion. So
yeah.
Like Another Journey by Train, that's a good song.
Yeah, for sure. They should have just connected it. But yeah, you could see how the whole thing was so rushed with the process, and 10
days. They made that in 10 days.
And you can,
like, 10 days, and that's amazing though when you think about it. Like you hear that, and you think, oh man, they put a lot of time into this. They put a lot of effort into this, and they really got into it. But the truth is, they just put a lot of effort into writing the songs. They didn't spend a whole lot of time making the album.
Yeah, it's very
so. And that's a testament of the songwriting at the time as well. That there's a major focus on the songs.
Like they just kind of like plowed through the record, like they had a million ideas and were just like,
he had a distinct sound he wanted to do, and they had the distinct songs, so it was like check kind of let's do it and get it out, so,
and I remember he was talking about Low being one of the big influential albums, and it's because of it. I mean, I didn't own Low for the longest time, and I think I read it in like the liner notes when maybe it was in the 10 Imaginary Years book or something, and I immediately felt like, well, I have to get that album. I have to get Low.
Right.
And then I had friends who were like, you don't have that already? And I'm like, and then you listen to Low and you're like, oh, okay, I totally see it. I totally see where the, and they say like I think that's why this album has been it gets celebrated. And I really wish people would celebrate it more. I really wish they would. And I'm sure there's gonna be people listening to this thinking like, oh, he's wrong. Everyone loves that record, but I disagree. It's not true. People forget about that album often.
Yeah, I do feel like it's underrated, but
it's forgotten.
I think it gets forgotten. I think Pornography steals its attention.
Yeah. I think because it is a little bit lost too, where it's not like the dark as they're gonna go by any means, and it's not the poppiest they're gonna go. So it is kind of like in their history and their timeline, of course, like we all see how important it was and everything, but like to the average listener, it might be like it's not poppy enough to be the ultimate poppy one, and it's not dark enough to be dark. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but it'll get there. Maybe this is the year for it, the 40th birthday. This will be the year that it gets its due. So
sound wise, lyric wise, like it really sets the tone for like it's like the declaration of cure dependence.
Maybe.
Yeah. This is it. This is where we're headed. You're either with us or you're not.
Like it or not.
Like it or not. This is where things are changing. And I like to think of all the other bands around that time. Even though I think Joy Division was heading in that really minimalist, dark direction anyway. But I like to think that they kind of like. They put their foot down and decided like, okay, we know the punk thing's not going to last.
Yeah.
So if we're going to stick around, we need to not just try something new, but like try something that's like no one else is really doing.
Yeah.
And Joy Division does very much the same thing in that regard. And like they made they're kind of more, I wouldn't call it aggressive, but they made their like, okay, this is our punk album, whatever, and then they made the more ethereal record after that. So in a nutshell, it is by far, I think, if you were to think of like top 5 albums, I would definitely put 17 Seconds in like, in that category.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, thanks so much, Kelly. Always a pleasure talking to you and hearing your thoughts. And thanks for providing even more great content here to the Holy Hour. And hope you're still doing well out there in Tennessee. We're going to head north now. We're going to go to the Lion's Den, the belly of the beast, New York. We're going to go track down our buddy Arusha and make sure she's doing okay up there. If anybody's got some insight on all this madness, it's got to be Arusha. So had the pleasure of calling up Arusha and talking with her a couple weeks ago and getting some thoughts on all this craziness. And of course, 17 seconds. Welcome back to the show, Arusha. And before we officially do try to focus on 17 seconds, I know you have a lot of Cure buds out there all over the world that it would be an injustice to not check in and for you to be able to. I'm sure they're worried about you, is what I'm saying. So for their sake, do you want to say hi to any of your international buds and let them know the status of things in New York City?
Hello out there in Radio Land, Podcast Land, TV Land. Things are weird in New York. They're surreal, but I feel content and peaceful in my abode, as some of you may or may not. First of all, my name's Arusha.
Yes, and welcome back.
And I've been working on a documentary for 20 years on and off. I never have the money, and now that COVID-19 has struck, I still don't have the money. So that's that. Through following the Cure around in 2016, I met Carl, who's now my roommate, and so he's a good buddy, and we're hunkering down in Brooklyn, and so I'm happy to have like a peaceful living situation, you know, because I've had many different roommates in New York, and if under different circumstances it would be a little bit colder and weirder, but and I live in a great apartment building, and so, you know, it's weird and it's sad. I feel like my heart goes out mainly to the healthcare workers, you know. But it's also, you know, New York is such a big and bold, intense place that it's kind of heartwarming to be here during this, because people really do kind of pull together. So it sucks. It's scary. It's terrifying, you know. But in my neighborhood, I feel like people are taking care of themselves and each other and being safe. And there's even signs outside, like little flyers that say, like, help, you know, feed the elderly and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but the only thing now is like I wanted to do that, but I'm like, well, maybe I should wait.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm really going to go over there. You know, I don't know what I have. I don't know what they have. It's
yeah, but just, you know, people should know that even though there's a lot of hysteria in the newscast, and it is scary, and horrible things are happening here, good things are happening too, and there are people looking out for each other. And
I'm glad, you sound well, so that makes us all feel well, I think. Because so how's the Cure been playing a lot then, as we focus on 17 seconds? Has it been any sort of soundtrack in particular going there for you guys as Cure fans? Quarantine?
Well, you know, I think this will tie into 17 seconds, actually. Now I can't remember if it came after Faith or 17 seconds. But I've been digging the Carnage Visors for like chilling out and kind of meditating.
Yeah.
Like trying to do a little yoga routine at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing about 17 seconds for me is that I actually, when I first heard The Cure in the early 80s, when I was a teenager, I wanted to go out and get their records. You know, with my piggy bank money, and I went to the record store, and I was like, well, what the fuck record do I buy? And I didn't know what to get, because there was the Japanese Whispers with the little baby heads on it, and then there was this, you know, pornography with this weird faces on it, and then there was this album with these ladies waving red flags. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So I got it, and it was Happily Ever After. So my first introduction to 17 Seconds and Faith was through Happily Ever After.
Together, huh? Yeah, that's cool.
And I still have that record.
Awesome.
That exact record. And I think I actually have 3 copies. I'm trying to sell one.
Yeah, it's an interesting way because somebody brought that up too, of like, being introduced. It could have been roughly the same with me, where I might have even bought the tape of Faith in 17 seconds when I was backtracking trying to get them all, at least within the same month, I probably got both of them. But just knowing those were both, on the same actual album, or what was Happily Ever After? Was it 2 discs or was it like all on one side? No, it must have been 2 records, right?
Well, it's two LPs. So at the time, here's the thing: is like I had only heard "Let's Go to Bed" at a party or something, and I was like, "Who's this?" And somebody's like, "Oh, Secure," and I'm like, "Whoa!" So it's kind of poppy, and I think I must have heard maybe "The Walk," or maybe I saw "In Between Days" shortly after that on MTV.
Right.
So then I go by Faith in 17 Seconds, and I'm like,
quite a jump, yeah. It's like, whoa.
So it took me a while to get into it, and then I got into it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, do you remember on like that first kind of reaction to it? Do you remember like, like Forest and Play for Today kind of standing out, or was it all just kind of like so different from the popular stuff you had heard?
Well, no, the whole record, it was like a wash in the beginning. I remember the cheesy drum sounds.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what is this? Like, I just couldn't really grab onto it. But then I would just let the record play, and that's when it really sunk in, and it sunk in as an entire record for me.
Yeah.
There was never like a standout song. Like A Forest never stood out to me. Play for Today never stood out for me. It became the whole experience of it.
Yeah.
And I would say that even actually things like songs like A Reflection and Secrets and 3, or maybe not Secrets, A Reflection and 3, and then as weird as the final sound is, and then I'm like naming every song, but
and that's all of them. Nah.
But it just became like a complete album experience, which is something that I really, really love.
Yeah.
About any band.
Yeah. And even The Cure in particular are just so good at those, like those classic albums too. Just, such a feel through the whole thing, very cohesive, theme that was, such a mood that, even if you weren't particularly, like you're saying, picking the songs or anything, it would just always be, I want to hear that mood more than that song, It's definitely like Faith and stuff too. So carries over.
Well, what's cool is like when you are so used to hearing an album that as soon as a certain song ends, your brain automatically goes to the next song on the record.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that one has that a lot with each song just kind of totally hands it off to the next one in particular. So we had mentioned that too. Would you ever notice like there was a weird thing with the cassette where like Play for Today was bumped to the second side of the cassette, but only on like US and UK. Like totally somebody pointed it out to me and I had like no idea, but it was like the only one, like all the records and all the CDs, always have it on side A, second track, but then like for some reason on the like just Canadian, US and UK cassettes, I think have A Forest as the first or the second song. So it's really weird because it doesn't blend in after it very well. You're just like, oh yeah, it doesn't really. You just start to go to it and hear it, but not sure. Probably just because of the single aspect. They just wanted to put it earlier in the album, maybe. But
right.
Yeah, who knows? I feel like you had mentioned that you really liked 3 a lot. Was always one that like stood out, which is kind of funny because in our review episode, I probably guilty of going on the record of saying that it's a bit of a filler song, it felt like, but so is that one that you still really feel like is a standout track that you like a lot?
I love it.
Yeah, I thought I'd.
But it's only because it's in the context of the album, and it's also in the context of Forever, because Forever, the song to me is basically 3.
Right on.
So if you break out, like if you listen to a forest. Like a friend of mine actually, which will be in the movie someday, talks about like when he hears Simon playing a forest and he hits that 8/8 sharp, and he knows that, like, this is when we used to see The Cure in the 1996 and 2000.
Mm-hmm.
My friend says, I'd hear Simon play the 8/8 sharp, and I knew that they were going to play forever. And that 8/8 sharp is 3. You know what I mean? It's the same dun 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 dun. That's it. That's all it is. And it's so simple and nothing, but look, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh my God, I want to play 3 at my wedding.
Right.
Like
top 5 songs by The Cure.
It's not like, wow, if they play that versus, Robert Smith nailing Disintegration, the song, live.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's more like a little treat. It's like a cookie or a chocolate, you know what I mean? Like just a little
bite. I like that.
I kind of hear it also as like after. So if you look at the record as a full record, so a reflection starts the whole album, and that's an intro, a very good intro song.
Yeah.
And another thing that got me into that song is when I got the Staring at the Seas, the videos on VHS back in the day, and you could see Robert, and it was like, it just was so sweet. For some reason, just seeing him fucking standing and then sitting down playing his guitar was like, oh my God, he's so good. Like,
he could stand and sit? Oh my God.
It's incredible.
This guy.
But yeah, so the whole record starts as a reflection, and then they get Play for Today, so there's this pop song. And then Secrets, I think, is probably the weakest song on the whole record.
Yeah.
And that's like a middle. And then you have it's like Play for Today and In Your House are fully formed songs.
Yeah.
And the other 3 are not. They're like an intro, a middle, and an outro. And so that's 3 I love because it's not only an outro, but it has this like that 8/8 sharp da na na na, and then that goofy boom 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 boom. It to me, it's like I want to flip the record and hear the next side.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think it's still odd in the sense that it's like so short of a clump to have like intro, outro, then flip it, hear another intro. You know what I mean? So it is like a weird thing, but that totally makes more sense too, just to have it be like a then kind of easy back out, then easy in, and it is since those early listens of 17 Seconds, and with the idea of it being 40th anniversary, do you feel like it's changed much for you listening over the years, if at all?
I think it's just it's a classic record for me. It's one of my go-tos. I do see the pull of like the Faith 17 Seconds Pornography era, like that trilogy scene together. I get that. Later, like when you were talking about the production of, the sound of Three Imaginary Boys and versus 17 Seconds and Faith, I was wondering who engineered it, because engineered by Mike Hedges and Mike Dutton. I'm looking at the record. Recently, last year when the Cure got inducted into the Rock Hall, Phil Thornley, did some Instagram posts, which is so weird that like our favorite bands are like all on social media. But anyway, but he was like, he's like, once upon a time I was in the Cure, a band called Cure, and I produced one of the darkest records ever or something. He was saying something he was proud of.
Yeah.
Now as I'm older and it's been with me for so long, I think more about the production of each record. That's something that just is interesting. That's like the only thing that's changed. Like even right now, like I've had these records forever.
Yeah, the production, like you're saying, for sure is crucial in Cure stuff. Yeah, because it was like him and Chris Perry credited for Three Imaginary Boys, right? And he always was a little about everything that Chris Perry was initially. They basically banned him from the studio for this one, working with Mike Hedges. He's like, you wait outside. We got this. And you could tell there was definitely a full-on vision for this, and pretty much all the ones out from here, So... but I mean, that makes sense. A band's first album, you're not going to really go in there like demanding, this and that and your production credits. It's like you're just trying to play the songs best as possible in the band. But I think Mike Hedges is pretty rad with that, and especially the fact that he does Faith with them too after this. And that's like a really cool leap with production stuff of just, taking the same thing to the next level without just doing 17 Seconds Part 2, So,
right.
Do you feel like there are distinct like strengths and weaknesses with the album? Is there something that you think stands out that really shows it off the most? Or
M, At Night, and 17 Seconds all together, it's just like so great.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could pull that apart. Because those songs together just are.
That was a good little stretch there. It was something that didn't really dawn on me until this last review we did of it, where I didn't realize how much more I like the end of the album or side B or whatever you want to call it. But it's like such a strong.
I think if I had to choose one song, it would be At Night.
Yeah, that's your go-to 17 Seconds jam.
Yeah, but like I said, I think with 17 Seconds, for me, it's better listened to as a whole record. It's just the kind of thing to just put on and do whatever the fuck else you're gonna do,
Yeah, it's such a short,
like be quarantined.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Yeah,
it's just so fitting to right now. Yeah, yes. No, it is. It is though. It's great. I did actually think about like telling some friends, well, if you've never gotten into The Cure, now's the time.
Yeah,
start with 17 Seconds. So, yeah. But it is like an album. I don't necessarily want to say it's the best produced, but I love the subtlety of it so much.
Yeah, it's a strange one that way because it is so like simplistic and sparse, but it's like the first stages of atmosphere for The Cure. So it is like such a cool production thing. But yeah, I don't know if I like it because, I'm always torn too, like you said, with The Forest. And, I like and maybe even like a lot of these better live, So it's like I was always a little torn because I was like, does that mean I don't like the production? I like the way everything sounds, but for some reason there's something always a little weird about the production where it just...
Yeah, but I think it's so much of the era.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm old enough to remember those years in life. And that sound of like, I would say even like Pornography, like you said, like it goes off the cliff and... It becomes so personal, that album.
Mm-hmm.
And where it's like Faith in 17 Seconds, and especially 17 Seconds, like just provide a little bit more atmosphere. And it really reminds me of the early 80s when like I saw it, like talk about apocalypse. We were all certain that World War III was about to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you look at like the records that were coming out and like, I mean, it actually like came to fruition maybe a few years later, like 82, 83, 84, but like, I don't know, just fucking It's a Mistake by Goofy-ass Men at Work and all these songs about I hope the Russians love their children too, that stupid Sting song, like that was
that other Major Tom one. There was some weird
Major Tom and Red Balloons and like the Russians, everybody
totally
and like it had come like in England, all the garbage and the punk rock, and then it was post-punk and the Ashes were that whole gray atmosphere was people broke ass and like kids like coming home and not having their parents there because they're both working, and latchkey kids. I was a little young for the latchkey thing, but I just remember that time. Like it just paints a picture of that time period so well.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on this album and coming back and sharing your thoughts in general with us here on the Holy Hour, Arusha. It's good to have you on and hear your voice, and I hope you keep safe out
Same
there.
Same to you.
So, always appreciate it. Hey, thanks. Oh yeah, before we roll, we should mention the zine. The newest edition is out. And it is awesome. It totally is like the perfect yearbook for 2019 and The Cure. If anyone is not familiar out there, Arusha has put out 3 copies so far of Push, a Cure fanzine, and it is super cool. The latest edition basically goes through all the highlights of 2019. And almost amazing to realize there were that many. Revisiting it, you're like, wow, that was like a crazy year for The Cure. There's so much stuff going on, and you did such a great job of putting that all together.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's weird now because I got inspired at some point, like halfway through the year. I was like, God damn, this year is like. I mean, we had like the Rock Hall, and they were touring in parts of the world they'd never been to before. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to put out this, anniversary film. Oh yeah, and by the way, we're going to put out Curiosa 25 or whatever the fucking meltdown was. Right. There was all these things happening. And then they were talking the new album and so on and so forth. It was incredible.
Yeah.
With some hard parts too, but seeing like Eden step up, and so I wanted to record it all, and I got great stories from fans all over the world, which is what I love to do with the fanzines. And the weird part now is that I decided to title it 2019 Dream.
Yeah.
Playing off of 413 Dream, but now that we're in 2020 hell, it's like, oh. Yeah, it really was a dream.
It's a really nice dream.
But feel free to buy my zine for $6.
Relive the magic of 2019.
No, it really. I think. I would hope that some people would find it fun to read now than when you're in quarantining at home and.
But where is a good place for people to pick up a copy of this awesome fanzine if they would like to do that?
Two places right now. One is remixedgifts.com, which is an awesome gift site, website run by Cindy Gamble, who's a good friend and a Cure fan. Get all kinds of good stuff at that joint. Check it out. You can also send me $6 plus shipping, but maybe you can include it in the show notes just to PayPal me at Cure Fan Documentary. But I think it'll be easier for people if you write it somewhere or you can check out Facebook Cure Fan Doc, and those are the ways to do it. And given that people are broke and like the last thing, if you're going to buy a potato versus a fucking fanzine,
right.
I'll work with people because I would love to get the fanzine out there.
I totally recommend it. And thanks so much again, Arusha. Good talking with you. And we'll say see you later for now, and hopefully catch you soon.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holy Hour.
All right, always a pleasure talking with Arusha, and we continue to wish you so much luck, and please be safe up there in New York. Hopefully we can start turning this thing around up there and getting some better news, and so please hang tight, and hold steady up there. And thanks for making the time and talk with us. We always appreciate it. Up next, we wind down with the night that we did the mystery caller episode. A dear friend of ours had chimed in for us to call him, but we didn't get back to him in time, so he left us this message, and it was a very cryptic parallels of 17 seconds and this corona times that we're living in. And I would like to read it for you now and share his thoughts on how all this plays out and balances with 17 seconds. Track 1. Just listen to Reflection and feel the first perception of a tsunami, the sirens wailing in the background, the pensiveness of the now. Track 2. Then abruptly find yourself in Play for Today. It's not a case of doing what's right, it's just the way I feel it matters. Tell me I'm wrong, I don't really care. It's not a case of share and share alike. I take what I require. I don't understand. You say it's not fair. It's dog eat dog for fucking toilet paper and croutons at Walmart. Track 3, reality sets in with secrets. I catch your eyes in the dark. One look relives the memories. Remember me the way I used to be. Where are we? What is about to happen? We laughed, but now what? Where are we? Track 4, holding the course in your house. I play at night in your house. I live another life, pretending to swim in your house. I change the time in your house. The hours I take go so slow. I hear no sound in your house. Does any more need to be said about this monotony? Track 5, desperation sets in with 3. Track 6, the final sound, hopeless swan song. Track 7, a forest, a retrospective, dramatization, interpretation of the previous tracks maybe? Closer and see into the trees, find the girl. I hear her voice, starts to run into the trees. Track 8, acceptance with M. Take a step, you move in time, but it's always back. The reasons are clear, your face is drawn and ready for the next attack. This is how we are now. Track 9, At Night. Isn't this just the theme song for all of this? The hours go by, you sleep. Sleep in a safe bed, curled and protected from sight, under a safe roof, deep in your house, unaware of the changes at night. And track 10. Well, we're dead now. 17 seconds. Time slips away and the light begins to fade. Everything is quiet now. Feeling is gone and the picture disappears. Everything is cold now. The dream had to end. The wish never came true. All right. Well, thanks, Matt, for that super positive outlook. I think this will all work out great now. I feel reassured. And sorry we missed you that night. Would have been great to talk. We'll have to talk soon. And I hope you're keeping safe up there. All right, guys. We're going to wrap things up now, but before we go, we got a quick one last little segment from our friend John in the UK, and he wanted to send in his 2 cents on the song Secrets. And as you noticed through all this review and pondering of 17 seconds, that's been the one track that nobody quite knows what to make of that song or how to quite put their thumb on it. So we're going to give John the final say on Secrets and hear what he has to say.
Hey guys, it's John here again. I thought I'd just come on this episode since it's a 17 seconds themed episode. I don't really necessarily have much to say about the album, but there's one track on it that really stands out for me, and I don't really think the guys would ever really do a whole entire episode dedicated to it because it's quite a short song. But for me personally, as a bass player, I really love the riff off it, and that's Secrets. I think that's there's just something about a song that's so really sticks out to me. Like, I love that riff, and I love the kind of the simplicity of it, but at the same time just how moody, and you know, I think that song really kind of sums up this period of The Cure. And another band I'm very fond of is the Red Hot Chili Peppers, of course. And John Frusciante, the guitarist, said in an interview once that he took a lot of inspiration from The Cure during the writing of Californication and the Californication album. And I think when you play these riffs kind of together, you could kind of spot a bit of similarities in them. So you've got Californication, and then you've got Secrets. I don't know if anyone else can hear it, but I certainly can, and that's something I really love from The Cure, that you can hear them in so many bands across the board. Their influences really kind of sink in, and there's so many bands that I listen to sometimes where you really wouldn't expect it, but you do, and it shocks you. So anyway, I hope you enjoy my little off-the-cuff cover. Obviously I couldn't really get anything with the band together because I'm currently on quarantine for 2 weeks because my son's quite ill with corona symptoms. So we're just locked in the house, and I thought what a great time to, you know, get the guitar out and just start learning all these songs that I really, really enjoy. Anyway, that's me signing out. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, John. Always good to hear you, and I'm sold. I think it's a keeper. So thanks for making sure that's confirmed before we wrap up all this 17 seconds talk. And the Holy Hour would definitely love to send all our love out to you and your family there, and hope everybody's recovering and doing well and making it through this craziness. So really appreciate you reaching out to us during all this, and we hope everybody else is doing good out there. We're going to wrap up with John's rendition of Secrets. Before we roll, be sure to email me at gavinconnor@gmail.com if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or suggestions for upcoming shows. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss anything, including some of the oldies we're going to be sprinkling back into the feeds. And, you know, follow that Instagram and that Facebook page, because that's how you keep track of all this mumbo jumbo. Is that a term still? Sure, why not? And we're going to try to squeeze in one more celebration of 17 seconds here before the end of the month. I'm not even really sure which route we're going to take, but something will be on there, and then we'll start getting back on a normal schedule again, maybe, so you know when to expect this stuff. But I don't know. No rules at this point, right? We're just cranking stuff out, and we hope you're enjoying it. Thanks so much for listening, and go put on 17 seconds and light a birthday candle for this thing. It's worth it, and we appreciate it. Now, here's John playing Secrets from 17 Seconds. Talk hard.
Secrets, tear with another girl, talking all night in the room, all night, never finish slowing down. I wish it was yours, I wish it was yours. Strangers, no one knows we love. I can't your highs